now joined on the line by Oisin McConville to look ahead to round 3 of the All-Ireland Football Qualifiers draw. And I suppose, Oisin, there's 4 games down for decision this weekend. The 4 winners will go on to meet provincial finalists. And I suppose it's a draw where we have some mouth-watering games, and we've games that as well that everybody gets an opportunity as well. Everyone going into this weekend feels they have a chance of progressing.
Yeah, and I think that's what the qualifiers has brought us, and I think we couldn't really ask much more from the draw. I know that some of the perceived bigger teams will have thought, they could have got a sweeter draw or an easier draw, home draws, but at the same time, it gives everybody a chance of progression. And I think all of the games, whereas there are certain favourites in the games, I think all of the games provide something a little bit different, unique pairings that we haven't seen that much of as well in Championship, and certainly a weekend to look forward to. Of all the weekends, so far, it's probably the most intriguing.
And I suppose, Oisin, the first game there, we'll just sort of discuss there is probably Laois against Offaly, a sort of Midlands sort of derby there as well. And many people were thought that was the shock of round 2 of the qualifiers. I thought so. I watched Derry against Tyrone. I thought they were very impressive. They beat Wexford, hammered really Wexford. And then for Laois to come up and beat Derry in their own backyard, and it's a real statement of intent, and they'll probably carry the favourites tag even though that they're away to Offaly at the weekend.
Yeah, no, I would agree with all of that. I think, to go up to Derry and get that win is no mean feat. I think that Derry had all the positives and all of those positive vibes going into the weekend, unbeaten throughout the league, run Tyrone to 6 points and what felt like an even closer match. And also, the way they won that league final as well, the way they dispensed Wexford, and you would think that, that was a real tricky task, but what John Sugrue has given to Laois, I think, is not just, a bit of organisation, a bit of tactical news, but he's got them more up for the games. There's a bit more, I suppose, devilment in them, a bit more of a will to win at all costs, and I think he's given them that. And there's a bit of bite. There's a bit of more bite about Laois, more bite than I've seen in a number of years. So, that I suppose is a. This is a real. Laois will see this as a real opportunity to get into the next round.
Yeah, and I suppose just a quick word there on Offaly as well. We can't underestimate the John Maughan factor as well. He's gone in there to Offaly, a team probably the last few years that was probably sinking, and he's reignited them. And one thing under John Maughan, as we know here in Clare as well, after 1992, he has the ability to get the best out of any team he sort of performs. He sort of overachieves with them. So he's probably one of the best managers in the game, and Offaly will be well prepared under John Maughan.
Yeah, no, I know Niall McNamee personally, and he speaks very highly of the work that John Maughan has done. The organisation again and a bit of steeliness, but also, he's added that little bit of quality. Niall McNamee himself coming out of retirement, getting a couple of goals at the weekend. He's in the groove, and he's got a lot of young players, Alan and boys like that around him who, have who have had that. I watched them last year against Armagh, and I didn't think they were that far away from from better results, and that has happened this year on the John Maughan. He definitely has reinvigorated a county which, when you consider how the hurling's going, was a county really on their knees, and every game that they win will help with that feel good factor, and there's a real buzz about them now.
Yeah, and I suppose, Oisin, we'll come on to the next game, and that'll be, we'll discuss Tyrone against Kildare, and this is an intriguing sort of tie. Tyrone going down to St. Conlan's Park in Kildare, this old saying, Newbridge or nowhere, but that's where Kildare eked out their famous victory last year. They're bringing a Tyrone team that's sort of wounded animal coming down to, well, I suppose they got the victory the last time against Longford, but you still feel there's still a bit of hangover after that Donegal loss, and there's an awful lot of questions, I feel personally, maybe about Tyrone, their half-back line. Do they have a renowned centre-back in relation to the Conor Gormley era, and do they have someone to hold that number 6 spot?
Yeah, I think so, and I think, the other question marks about thrown into this weekend, the 3 major injuries they have. Richie Donnelly, who's really struggling with injury. Paul Hampsey, who's also struggling with injury. And I think when you consider that, it just hasn't really happened for them as far as the performances so far in the championship, and that can be traced back as far as one of the problems that I see with Tyrone is that they have been caught between two stools recently, and one of the issues with them is that they wanted to play, I suppose, a lot more offensively than they have done, and against Longford at the weekend they went back to basics, and I think they look a lot more solid that way. But again, I don't know if they have the personnel to push on. And I watched Kildare at the weekend, and they were very impressive. Yes, it was Antrim, but it was away from home. The take pitch, it had all the hallmarks of an upset, and yet Kildare dispensed of them in a real professional manner. And I think going down, they're at home again, take pitch. I'm just not sure if it's going to suit Tyrone that much, but look, we've questioned Tyrone in the past, and they've always come up with the answers. So you just like of all the games that there is at the weekend, I think that's the one which is probably most 50-50, and it's probably the hardest one to call. But Mickey Hart has gone back to this system which has, I suppose, reaped so many dividends over the last couple of years. He tried to tweak it and get away from that against Donegal, and they paid the price. So, they're back to basics now.
And I suppose, Oisin, before we move on, lastly, in relation to Kildare, in relation to Cian O'Neill, it's probably his 4th year in charge now of Kildare, and probably one thing about Kildare is the consistency of performance. If there's one team that's probably the most inconsistent in the country, is Kildare. When they're good, they're very good, but when they're bad, they're very bad. So how important is it for Kildare to put 2 performances back to back? Because we know Tyrone will come, and Tyrone are never they're never too bad. They're either good or very good, and Kildare will really need to bring their A game.
Yeah, they will, and I had heard a lot of voices that say that there was a little bit of discontent in the Kildare camp, but there was definitely no sign of that last weekend. He emptied the bench. Players seemed to be buzzing, seemed to be playing for each other and for him. So you're right in that the key for them is to put performances like last week back to back, and to take last week's performance in isolation. The one thing you could say is Antrim. I think they finished 3rd or 4th bottom for the Division 4, so you would expect it both there anyway. But just the way they dispatched them, I thought the movement from the full forward line was really, really good. But again, they're going to come up against a different task, and that is the key. You've hit the nail on the head. The key is the consistency of the performance, and if they can back up last week.
Yeah, and I suppose, Oisin, we'll now move on to the game that we're most vested. I know you're most vested in Mayo and Armagh, but down here in Clare we're most vested in Clare and Westmeath. And Colm Collins, I'd say, coming out of the qualifier, jaw Monday morning. I say he was quite content. Clare have been knocking around the qualifiers maybe the last few years, just barely missing out on that last 16 spot. The Clare public, even though Mayo and Tyrone a home game, or even Kildare, Clare would have said, right, we've played one of the big teams in the qualifiers the last few years. They've drawn Westmeath, they are away, and Westmeath will be happy, but here in Clare there's a real sense of optimism as well.
Yeah, I think it's a game that Clare now should be expecting to win, and I think that's the challenge for Clare. Clare have done really, really well with the underdogs tag. I just think that now all the expectation is on them this weekend. They're a established Division 2 team now. Seen them this year in Newry versus Armagh. Yes, you could say they were lucky, but they have a lot of things going for them. I think, defensively they will ship scores, but from 8 on up, I mean, they're as good as anybody, and that's, I suppose, the thing that they need to concentrate on. Westmeath will give them chances, will cough up chances, and it's a matter of, I think that's a bit of a shootout, that game. It's a matter of who takes their opportunities best. Westmeath are a different animal to what they were last year. I've seen Armagh defensive. They're in Mullingar, not a particularly easy place to go and play football, but I just expect, I expect Clare, if they have anything about them, and if they are able to, like a little bit of, what we've talked about already, to back up that result against Leitrim. But the biggest thing for me is that when there's something expected of them, how do they perform when they're in the box, even when they are favourites going into the game, it's how they respond. So that's the challenge for them this weekend, and if they want to kick on, they really should be dispensing of teams like Westmeath.
And I suppose, Oisin, in relation, I spoke to Imlan Mulligan before Clare played Leitrim, and he said for Leitrim to have any chance, they needed to break even with the Clare midfield, and Gary Brennan and Cathal O'Connor, and particularly try and stop Gary's influence. And Gary just took off where he left off against Kerry in the second half, and he just tore Leitrim asunder in the first 10 or 15 minutes. And it's going to be a question, do Westmeath have a midfielder when Gary Brennan is on the form he's in at the moment, try and uphold him?
Well, the simple answer to that is no, and I think that goes for a lot of teams in Ireland. Okay, they might have a combination of midfielders, but a one-on-one, I mean, Gary Brennan is as good as what's around. I think the way they used him at the weekend as well, he did spend a little bit of time, on the forehand. There wasn't, he was expected to win primary possession in the middle of the field, but he was also given the license to get forward. He doesn't have a lot of duty going the other way, and I think, that really works for him, and, him making those thunderous runs forward, seen it against Armagh in the league, and, that is something that, gives them gives Clare a real springboard to dominate teams, and that's what they did the weekend. But I still think that it sounds ridiculous, but 3-17. But when you consider the amount of possession Clare had at the weekend, you should be. They should have been they could have easily had 330, 325.
They missed 4 or 5 goal chances, so it could have been 8.
So it does sound a bit ridiculous, but the return should be more.
Yep.
Westmeath will realise that, and they'll curb some of that. But still, whatever opportunities that Clare get, they really need to be sticking them away, because the level of opposition is just going to keep ramping up from here on in, and that's when it's so important to take your chances. And
finally, before we talk about Mayo and Armagh, Oisin, just one thing in relation to John Hislin. He's back from his studies. He wasn't needed. He wasn't needed really for Westmeath against Limerick and Waterford. Really, do you think he's going to be in from the start this weekend for Jack Cooney? Yeah, I think he is, because I think Westmeath will realise just how important he is. He'd certainly play a huge part in it. If he doesn't start, he will be on pretty early. He's huge for Westmeath. He is the one that the supporters look to lead the team. He's very much a leader. But the one thing is, he hasn't played a lot of football, and I think, regardless of how good you are, that does come against you sometimes, and I think that's
the big question mark this weekend is that, you know, even if he is playing, you know, is the fit, not just the fitness level, but is the that competitive edge, you know, there as far as the amount of game time that he's got. He didn't get a lot during the league. He hasn't got a lot during the championship. So, you know, that's the one question mark, is that, you know, is he gonna start somebody? You know, are they gonna start somebody who hasn't had a huge amount of football? That probably, you know, the more I think about it, the more chance they have of taking him off the bench. But again, you know, for a manager, you know, who has somebody like him there at his disposal, it's very difficult to leave him sitting on the bench, because you think, if I leave him sitting on the bench, are we going to be gone out of the game? You know, because you know, I've seen teams do that. You watched Cavan last week; they were trying to stay in the game long enough to empty the bench and have a real and for the people coming off the bench to have a real influence, and it ended up that you know, by the time that those boys come off the bench, his game was gone. So I suppose that's the fear.
Yeah, and I suppose, Oisin, we'll bring you on now to your own home county, Armagh. I suppose, in one sense, it's a great opportunity for Kieran McGuinness and Armagh to see where they really are in terms of their development. Are they moving up the ladder in relation to contention and breaking into that top six in relation to contenders? But on the other side, Mayo are a seasoned sort of renowned outfit, and when as the longer the summer goes on, the better Mayo seem to get, and it's a real interesting game, this one at the weekend, and Armagh must be further or even confident with the news that Diarmuid O'Connor is expected to be out.
Yeah, that's big news. Obviously disappointing for Diarmuid O'Connor and for Mayo, but big news for Armagh, because like he's our leader. Anybody who was at the league final last year, this year, will realise that it was Diarmuid O'Connor and almost Diarmuid O'Connor alone who led them in that last 10 minutes and got them across the line. He's a powerhouse, and as I say, he is a leader. But I don't want to keep repeating myself, and we're talking about teams backing performances up, but that has been Armagh's Achilles heel over the last number of years, is that we have a brilliant performance, we have a great result. We're very expecting next day out, and we deliver very, very little. So that's the challenge, really. The challenge for Armagh is to back up what they did last week. We've beaten somebody of note now. You know, a lot of people say Monaghan were in the win, but believe me, that was still a very good Monaghan team. So we've beaten somebody now, and now the challenge is to back it up. And I actually don't think it's a bad thing that we're going to Mayo. I think the atmosphere will be electric. I think Armagh people will travel in their numbers, and I think, you know, as I say, the atmosphere will be electric, and that should help this young Armagh team. They seem to prosper. I mean, we have players playing at the top of the game. Donaghy is coming back in. He's made us more solid at the back. We're not going to give away the 23 points that we gave away when he wasn't there against Cavan. So, and up front, we're as good as anybody. It's funny, we're not that dissimilar to Clare, is that there's question marks over our defence, but once you get to 8 and 9, right into 15, I mean, and the boys coming off, and the lads coming off the bench as far as the forwards are concerned, you know, I think we're a match for anybody in that sector. But I'm just not sure if Armagh have experienced the intensity that I have seen this Mayo team play at on numerous occasions. I'm not sure if we're ready for the Lee Keegans, the Colin Boyles, the Brent, the Harrisons, the Barrett, the Aidan O'Shea in the middle of the field. I'm not sure if we're ready for that sort of intensity, but I think Armagh have the quality to beat Mayo. But I'm just not sure if we can live with them with that intensity, and whether we're going to be as up for it as we have been, I suppose, as we were for it last week. And again, not to repeat myself, but that is the challenge. The challenge is effectively for us is to put that much pressure on Mayo that they end up folding.
Yeah,
you know, and it very nearly happened in Down last week, and I would consider Armagh a much better outfit than Down.
And I suppose, Oisin, just one thing, we all know Armagh in Rian O'Neill, you have some real talented forwards, Jamie Clark, you've Andrew Murnan, Jamar Hall, but the question is basically for Armagh, for the forwards, is in relation to going the other way, because we all know the explosiveness of Paddy Durkin rampaging up the field, Keith Higgins, Colin Boyle, Lee Keegan, and it's got an awful lot for Armagh is going to depend on how that front six defend as a unit as well.
Exactly, and I think, Jamar Hall, Aidan Nugent, the two wing half forwards, have done a lot of defending so far and have been very good in that sector. And defence does start from 15 as far as Armagh is concerned. But Donachie coming in as that sweeper, has been really, really good. And the other thing about Armagh defensively is that, at times we have struggled with that little bit of pace with forwards coming from, all the defenders coming from the half-back line, but also just the way we defend as a team. And, we try and create that high lane. And I think the other thing about Armagh is that, we're very aware of that, that is our Achilles heel. I know we had highlighted the fact that we didn't take our chances. We didn't take our chances against Cavan the second day. We missed some goal chances, but our Achilles heel that day was the fact that we didn't defend, and we didn't defend properly as a unit. So that's a challenge. But the thing about a game with Mayo is that you don't really have a choice. It's a shootout against them, because they'll come at you from every direction, and you sort of have to try and match up with that. And that's why I personally am really looking forward to the game. And I don't know if part of it is with trepidation and the fact that I know what Mayo can do to teams when they're really feeling it and they're on form. But also, I think part of it is that I know it's going to be an unbelievable game of football, and I'm just hoping that Armagh can come out the right side of it, because of a little bit like Clare, is that those super rates for Armagh would be real progression.
And I suppose lastly, Oisin, before I let you go, just one overall thing in relation to Armagh and Mayo. We saw the last week Andy Moran was restarted again in corner forward, and he sort of revigorated Mayo in relation to being the orchestrator in the attack and being that sort of leader and that sort of focal point where the forwards seem to crave off Andy's sort of directions. And to minimise his influence at the weekend will help Armagh go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, they have a few threats now. That's the other thing. I think Loftus come in at the weekend. He's done well. He's settled them down as far as free kicks, because there's nothing that sucks the life out of a forward line is, doing all that great work, getting free kicks and kicking them wide. And, that take really strips the momentum from a team like that. And he's come in, he is the obvious solution to that, apart from Killian O'Connor. So, that's a real plus for them as well. But as far as Andy Moran is concerned, any young forward who wants to see, movement in the full forward line, there is a couple of examples, thankfully, in Gaelic football now, but he's one of them, and it's very short, sharp stuff. But he's physically strong, and he takes other players into the game. So, I suppose that's the key for Armagh, to sort of try and nullify somebody like him, and in the hope that can derail that whole Mayo forward line.
And I suppose, Oisin, we're just running out of time here. Just lastly, I suppose, Oisin McConville, so your tips to go through to reach to play the provincial finals, dare I say it, are they your own county, Armagh, Tyrone, Laois and Clare? Is that who you're tipping at the weekend?
Oh, well, I'm going to play to the crowd, so I'm going to go Clare.
Yeah.
I think Laois, just about. And I also think Tyrone will come through, and unfortunately I think that Mayo will just have too much intensity for Armagh. So much as I would love to let my heart rule my head, I think that Mayo will have enough for Armagh.
Oisin McConville, pleasure as always talking to you, and hopefully Armagh we'll both have something to smile about come Sunday evening with Armagh victories and Clare victories. Take care, Oisin.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you.